Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Racer Insider Show. I'm Travis Turner. That is Lindy Suter alongside the Racer Insider himself, and we catch up with you and the Racers after a tough loss down at Southern Methodist. A great effort from the Racers. It was an interesting contest to watch. That's a very talented team at SMU, by the way. They will make some noise in the ACC. Led by double digits up in the mid-teens at points, but the Racers really made things interesting down the stretch. So we're going to get into it with Lindy, talk about what he saw, his impressions from that battle. We welcome you in, my friend. First thing we'll do, though, is we'll go ahead and we will remind folks that you are the leader of the Suter Insurance Group. There's information about Lindy and his great agency. You can reach them by telephone at 270-753-5842 and online at SuterINSgroup.com. Again, that's SuterINSgroup.com. But, my friend, we always like to hear from you about the many products and things you guys offer. So take it away. Tell us about Suter Insurance Group.
Okay. Well, of course, we're all lines insurance agency, independent agency that represents several different companies. In fact, we're quoting the homeowners right now. I think it's about $1 million home, actually, and we're getting to use about 4 or 5 different companies for this individual. So that's really good. But there's one thing I would like to say for those who are out there that do own a home. Make sure you are looking at your coverages and make sure you've got enough, because the rebuilding cost, the cost of putting a roof on, the cost of just repairing anything has gone up in the last 5 years. And there's a lot of homeowners insurance policies that have been enforced for a long time with different companies. And, you got to make sure you got enough coverage, because we do know that, total losses can happen. It's happened to a good friend of mine, and it's, then of course, tornadoes.
And that's what insurance is for. And that's what great agents and great friends.
The employees just brought me a quote right now that she just got through.
Look at there.
Yeah.
This man is doing double duty. So just so you know, folks, he's still on the job. That's how good an insurance agent Lindy Suter is.
That's how good they are.
Hey, a great team, right? A great staff is key. Well, you're the leader there. You're our coach here in the Racer Insider Show, and we're kind of going to let you go to the press table here. Your impressions from the tough loss the other night down at Moody Coliseum at SMU.
I was very impressed, Travis. First of all, the margin, the 11-point game. We all know it was an 8-point game. It was
right
at the end, but if it had been 95-87, he wouldn't have shot it.
Right.
Since it was 90, they wanted to get over the 100 mark, so I'm sure that's the reason why I shot it. But there's a lot of guys out there that, you either won or lost on that one shot at the buzzer. But anyway, I'd hate to have been on the other side of that deal. That would have been hard to take. But anyway, very impressed. Playing with a high-level team. I mean, we matched up with them. I wished we would have done better on the ball. I wish we'd get off to a better start. I mean, that starts. We got to get off. And I think Coach Miller said that right away on the postgame show. I mean, you got to get off to better starts. We got to figure that out. I think we fell behind like 13-4 right off the bat. Not very much, time, not a lot of time to go on either. And of course, if you look at that from that point on, is anybody just 2-point game?
And at times,
and I don't want anybody to underestimate SMU, because SMU looked really good, and they're playing in one of the top leagues in the country. And we just went on the road and we battled them. And with a little bit more experience or playing on a home court, who knows, might what happened in that game. But I came away really encouraged, just as encouraged as I've been all season.
Well, and Lindy, I think what you have there is you just have a high-level college basketball game. And as you're going to see when you have 2 very good and very talented teams, there were times like out of the gate where Southern Methodist had the better of play. And there were many times, especially down the stretch in the second half, where the Racers clearly had the better of play. And I promise you, Andy Enfield understands how high level Ryan Miller's team is. And I told you, my biggest takeaway from the game is you saw everything you needed to see to say this is a Missouri Valley championship level club, especially since they're going to get better. Because ask yourself the question, if SMU is in the Missouri Valley, are they going to win it? Would they be your favorite? I think the answer to that would be yes.
Yes, I would agree with that. And you make an excellent point. We tend to forget that we've only played, 3 regular season games with,
Right.
with 15 new players, a new coach, new staff. And to be able to go and do that this early is very, very, very encouraging.
Well,
And
and Lindy, the game
I
against
think you made
Omaha.
a good point. It proves for a fact that we're going to be competing for that championship at the end of the season.
Yeah, the game against Omaha was a neutral floor game, and
Right.
people have to remember that. And I think the thing about getting punched in the mouth early, that's what SMU should do. That they're on their home floor, but that's a lesson as a group. You have to go and you have to experience some of those things. And obviously, Southern Methodist is by far the most talented foe the Racers have faced so far. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, when you look at their club with Boopy Miller and BJ Edwards in the backcourt, those guys are high level. I mean, let's take a look at the numbers. Miller, who coming in had not been shooting it well in the first couple of games, but he was terrific shooting it the other night. 28.6 assists, 3 steals. That's an all ACC level of play there from a guy who was a third team performer last year. Edwards, 20 points and 5 assists. They get 19 from Jaron Pierre, who can really shoot it. Corey Washington was great up front, 17 and 11. The big Turkish kid in the middle, he was 11 and 8. And Lindy, you mentioned the rebounding. SMU made a lot of hay on the offensive glass. They had a shot at 39 offensive rebounds. They got 17 of them. That's a huge percentage there. You certainly understand the big fella at 7'2", Washington, a great athlete. They were terrific there. But in the face of – that's the other thing about this game. Sometimes you lose because you didn't play well. Mm-hmm. But we played well in a lot of ways, and so did SMU. You got beat by a terrific performance. Mustangs weren't sort of okay. They were really good. That's what it took to win the game.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. And, we had that warrior mentality, and I really like that. I mean, this team has no give up in them whatsoever. And, if you take Schroeder and Lane Taylor, where they were like 0 for 7 from 3.
Yeah, those are guys that are going to make those shots.
Or one of them's going 0 for 3, and you would at least expect 6 to 9 more points out of those shots. So there's a lot of things when you look at it. I would not be scared to play them again. I mean, I would play them. I think there is on nights that we could beat SMU.
Well, we've talked about the elements that this club possesses to play with Power 4 teams. I mean, there's just a physical reality about this group that is there, and of course you look at the night that Javon Jackson had. Again, this is a veteran college basketball player. This is a physical backcourt performer, 26 points on 14 shots. Again, a great job getting to the foul line. He makes all 8. He knocks in a couple of threes, but just tremendously efficient there. J.J. Traynor makes a couple of threes. He has 14 points. Fred King, 10 and 8 on the night. Roman Damone with 11 points for him, and he showed you glimpses again of how good he is. Mason Miller makes 3 of 5 from 3, and obviously Lane did not shoot it as well as he's going to sometimes, but the combination of Taylor and Tenor, 9 assists to 3 turnovers.
Oh yeah, I really like that stat because that's going up against high-level guards, and I'll let them slide on a missed 3 to have those kinds in a high-level game like that. And, Jackson has just been really I knew he was a good player. He put it on us last year, but he's actually exceeding my expectations. He's playing a little bit better than I was expecting him to play.
Well, and the efficiency piece, Lindy, has been so good. We averaged over 11 points a contest last year at UIC, but he only shot around 40% and 31% from 3. So he right now is playing at an exceptionally high level in terms of his efficiency. A lot of that is driven by his ability to get to the foul line, of course. He's had a 10 of 10 game. He's had an 8 of 8 game. But Javon really seems to be doing a great job right now of understanding where his strengths are, where his advantages is. When he's taking the 3, he's taking that catch and shoot in rhythm. He's open when he's taking those shots. He's getting the hip and shoulder through, getting to the basket, getting to better positions. Again, that's what you get when you have a veteran player who understands what it's like to play at this level. One of the things that people can be excited, I think, about for Roman and for Matisse, they obviously have played at a very high level within the French Federation over there, but these are guys still getting used to playing American college basketball. They'll get better at that. They'll get better as a result. But Javon, he knows this. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, he does. And sometimes we forget that even Lane Taylor's a sophomore.
Right.
He missed part of the season last year with a shoulder injury. I mean, he's still young. So that's right. It's really good to have Jackson out there with those 2 point guards. And, I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. I think our guards are very sufficient point guards to win the Missouri Valley Conference. I think we discussed this with me after the game.
Yeah.
Get up to that ACC level. How do they stack up against that level of guard? And that'll probably determine the success this team has at the next level. But getting off of that for a minute, what was the shot attempts? Your big stat analytics that in that game.
Well, Lindy,
I texted one of my friends. I said I didn't look, but I think we lost the Travis's analytics.
Well, and that's where they did such a great job of getting shots up in terms of their offensive rebounding, and that's what you have to understand when you start to look at the game. And where do possessions come from? Where do numbers come from? I'm always interested to see what the synergy system tracks versus what the actual box score says, because the synergy cameras that transmit this information. And by the way, folks, if you wonder if artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, the answer to that is yes. The reason I can tell you that is that the technology that we have at our disposal, when you look at this information, how many jumpers there were, how many were guarded, how many were unguarded, how much was at the rim, how much was off a cut. And it's not perfect, but it's just incredible when you look at the numbers that we can track. So second chance points, SMU, I think, had an advantage. I think maybe 17-13 in terms of what the track points were, but they had 17 offensive rebounds. What that means is whether they convert or not, it's another opportunity. And that's a place where we've got to get a little bit better as a club. We had 30 offensive rebound opportunities. We got 8. You'd like that number to be around 10, 11, 12. If you can get 12 of those and you're getting 40% of your misses, that's big time. But anything up in the high 30s is big. For us, it was 62 field goal attempts, Lindy. That's 32 of 62. Lost shooting over 50%. That tells you how good SMU was. But you add up your 62 field goals, your 24 free throws, that's 86 shots on goal. That's just a little bit below what we would want. For the Mustangs, they got 74 field goals, 30 free throws. That's 104 shots on goal. That's a difference of 12. The margin was 11, folks. Watch for shots on goal. It's going to tell you a lot.
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad you have brought that to my attention. I've really paid a lot of attention to that, and it plays out in a lot of games. It really does.
And Lindy, here's where the value of the extra possessions lie, whether it be winning them on the offensive glass or whether it be through turnover margin. You look at points per possession in the contest. SMU was at 1.041. The Racers were at 1.034. Anything north of 1 is a good number. So both teams were excellent in terms of points per possession. The margin is razor thin. The more possessions there are, the more shots on goal there are, the more you can push that number out. Where they got so much done, they were great in transition, 1.28 points in transition per possession, and they got out and they ran effectively quite a bit. But the offensive rebounding and turnover percentage, I guarantee you that's something that Coach Miller has circled and that they've talked about with their guys. Our turnover rate was 17%. Theirs was 11.2. And again, that's just enough to create the separation. But one thing we also like to track a lot is threes and frees, three-point points and free throw points. SMU's advantage was 46-45 there. So that was very close, probably on the road. You want to turn the game in one place. But again, I just guarantee you that Andy Enfield was more than happy to go out after the game and sing the praises of his opponents. He knows he just saw one of the most talented teams outside the ACC they'll see all year.
Oh, I have to agree with that. I really would. What about the rest of the league, Travis? How you kind of have you got a chance to kind of scope them all out? I mean, looking at results, I put the eyeballs on several.
Lindy, what I see so far is that the clubs that polled well, I think you can say that what Illinois State and Northern Iowa have puts them, they deserve to be in the upper portion of the league. But you have made an interesting point to me over the years, and this was even pre-portal. You used to say these things. When teams have a lot of continuity back, that is a great thing. But it could also signal that their ceiling is not quite as high. You'll see those teams perform well in November and December, as opposed to some clubs that are trying to figure some things out. So it always bears watching. What is a team's ceiling? How much better can they play? Can they get? But I don't see anything right now that answers very many questions for the league beyond those known entities that sort of know who they are. I think right now we have to stay in wait and see mode. But now what we always watch for with all of these teams is it's these kinds of games. It's the game that the Racers played the other night, because look, even the Omaha game, when I look at that Omaha team and I evaluate who we saw, I look at them and I go, where do they go in the Missouri Valley pecking order? I don't see anybody that's better than a middle of the order club there. No disrespect to Omaha. I agree. Again, with SMU, I'm going to go, this is a championship team in our league. The Mississippi Valley State game, you have to have home games. It's hard to get them. You're going to play that game. You've got Nichols coming in this weekend. You've got to play games. You have to play that game. But it's going to be the Middle Tennessees. It's going to be some of these other games on the schedule. And the same thing is true of your Missouri Valley brethren. Watch what people do against clubs that could win this league. Then you'll know. You'll start to have a picture. But one other thing I would point to, Lindy, that I think is always a reality, and it's why conference play is harder. Right now, teams are going to focus more on themselves than their opponent. Yes, they're going to do scout. Yes, they're going to try to have attention to detail. But in November, December, until you play a league foe, it's more about you than it is them. I guarantee you, when in December we start to see conference foes, they're going to try to take away Mason Miller. They're not going to let Mason Miller get loose for threes. The same for Braden Shorter when he's in the game. They're going to know which way Fred prefers to turn in the post, and they're going to make him go the other way. They're going to try to get him off of his spot. They're going to know how is Javon Jackson beating people and getting to the foul line. They're going to try to make him a jump shooter. They're going to try to take that away. That's why rubber meets road and things change when conference game is out there on the schedule.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I tell you, SIU's been the surprise team for me. They have gotten off to a good start. They played Nevada overtime last night at Nevada. Nevada's a team that would be a high-level Missouri Valley.
Right.
I looked at their schedule. They're like 3-0 and have won their other games pretty convincingly. So SIU's been a surprise team to me. Northern Iowa, obviously, I think. Right now, I would put us, Northern Iowa, SIU, and then maybe get into the Belmont, Illinois State. That's kind of what I've kind of judged. But the one thing, eyeballs, forget the scores, forget scores and looking at box scores. What does the eyeballs see? And right now, I see our talent level is at the top.
Well, again, Lindy, you're on the floor with an ACC team, and you can't. I mean, if you switch the uniforms and change the brand name for people, would they know the difference? I don't think they would.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, that speaks to the level of talent. And we always play the game too. Okay, could Roman play for SMU? Yes.
Yes.
Could Fred play for SMU? Yes. Would JJ play? And look, who was the deeper basketball team the other night?
Right. I thought that might help us out. I thought that was one of the things when I looked at the game that we might be able to. That might help us.
Is it any accident that we had the better of the second half?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I think that's, when you start to see, okay, well, this guy's playing 36 minutes, this guy's playing 38 minutes, fresher legs. And one thing that Coach Miller in this.
Have you got the box score up, Travis?
I do, yes, sir.
How about name off the minutes played, our top minutes played for our players? I'm curious.
Well, you've just got great balance, Lindy. I mean, first of all, let's go ahead and start with this note. Roman played the most minutes at 25 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay. That was surprising.
You've got Fred at 25-11, Javon at 24. By the way, not only did Javon score 26 on 14 shots, he did it in 24 minutes. You've got Matisse at 21.49, JJ at 21.17. Then you've got Lane was at 24.25, Mason's at 16.55, Dylan at 13.06, Braden at 10.19, KJ at 17.24. So you're talking about a situation where you play 10 guys at least 10 minutes and 19 seconds, nobody more than 25.34.
The most interesting thing that just popped up there to me, that the four guys at the lowest, I think they started.
Yeah, most of those guys are
guys. They started. Schroeder started, didn't he? KJ started.
Yeah, Shorter and Tenor were both starters. Now Anderson and Miller came off the bench the other night. But you've already seen that, Lindy. I mean, you've already seen the idea that it's going to be a situation where you have your starters perhaps, but we're always looking for finishers, obviously. But I think what's happening for the staff, and again, this is the ability to track and see the numbers. You know, you have the ability to look at, okay, which groups are playing together. And that may change from night to night. It may be about the matchup tonight. Hey, who's our hot hand at the point guard spot? Who's shooting the ball really well? Hey, does it seem like that when Javon and Mason are on the floor together, that's offering some more gravity and spacing to allow Javon to, you know, who knows what it is that fits. But I think they will be acutely aware of how these pieces fit. And so how these 10 guys, they're going to get used, how, where, and when they get used may be changing from game to game.
Oh, in the matchup, like you said. By the way, congrats to UT Martin. How many years have I talked about them? And they went up there and beat Bradley last night.
Yeah, well,
and I hated it, like I tweeted. I hated it for the league, but I loved it for their fan base.
Well, and didn't you send me a box score where they beat UNLV?
Yes. With all these, that coach is, with what, 10 or 11 foreign players? That's very impressive. That's going to be an interesting kind of watch over our shoulder and keep up with this year.
Well, we've entered this brave new world, Lindy, if you will, where, as you know, you talked about this from our opening episode. Understand the desire and the reflexive. Hey, we vote and we poll based on what people have coming back, but that's not the world that we live in anymore.
No.
I mean, do you realize, and I know you do, but just to our audience, when you go into the game notes, which always a great reservoir for information is the job that Dave Winder and other sports information, media relations professionals do around the country. Go online, go into the game notes, and there's so much to be mined from those that's going on with the teams. But when you look at the Racer roster in those game notes, every line is joins Murray State from, joins Murray State from, joins Murray State from. Hey, you've been doing this for 60 years, brother, as a fan of the Racers. They only used to join the Racers from high school. And it's different.
It's really different. You hope that you're going to be able to retain some of them and you're not having to do this every year, even though I guess if you have new coaches, you pretty much do it when you have a new coach, regardless of what's going on. But, it kind of adds a little bit of excitement because one of the something you always enjoy is something new.
Sure.
Who's the new player? And, so, you're trying to look at it in a positive way. That's the way I would look at that. And, I like the fact that some of the guys that we've got is Javon's a senior, right?
Yes.
Yes. Brad King's a senior, right?
Yeah. These are guys that have been through it.
Played a lot of games. So it's not like we're bringing in, like you said, a freshman. But it's definitely different, but I'm starting to kind of like it.
Well, as a Major League Baseball fan, everybody's loved the hot stove for years because of who you might get in a trade, who you might sign as a free agent. And it's a way for hope to spring permanently and all the time that, hey, we're going to get another guy that can help us win. And I wanted to address that with you because you mentioned being proud of the effort and the competitiveness after getting down early. One of the things I think that has, I don't want to use the word surprised, but impressed me is that with all of these guys who had to come in and put down a suitcase because they are from somewhere else, with all of these guys who naturally who have been at other places, they're probably looking for more opportunity than they've had before, or they're looking for a better situation they've had before. It can lead to lots of individual agendas, and that's part of human nature anyway. But the cohesive and collective desire to compete and to win, Lindy, has been awfully impressive to me.
Like you just said, compete. Every one of those guys have come in, and you can tell, and Coach Miller, the staff, has done a fabulous job of bringing them together and creating that. But it almost look it must be a top priority for every guy they bring in, that they want to win, that they're a competitor and they're going to compete, because every one of them seems like to me they're bringing that quality. And I think because they're all competitors and they want to win so bad, that they put that personal agenda aside. Because the bottom line, if you win at Murray State, if you win the Missouri Valley Conference, and we go to the tournament and we win the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, and we go to the NCAA and we make a good showing there, every one of these players is going to play somewhere professional.
Right.
I don't care what their average is. I don't care 8 points and 7 rebounds a game. If they're playing minutes on a championship team like that, they're going to play. Maybe not NBA, but they're going to play, and they're going to get paid well.
Yeah, winners are valued all over, aren't they?
They're big. That's a big, with me. I love winners.
I believe that's your most used hashtag over the years, isn't it?
Big. Now I kind of turn into winners. I think big and winners. I probably need to use both of them because they're kind of
well, and that's something that's going on with this club, because they have thought big, both in terms of talent and size. They've got everything that is equipped for them to win. I know what you love in terms of basketball. You told people right out of the gate you love shooters, you love tempo, you love scoring. I mean, would have obviously loved to see Murray State come out on the long end the other night. But, Lindy, 102-91, it was a fun watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, 91 points against an ACC team on the road. I mean, there's a lot of games that, we'd have went up there and we might have got beat by 20.
Right.
Be honest. I mean, that was a tough game right there. Probably even tougher than I anticipated when I saw it on the schedule, even though I had a lot of respect for them because they came in here, 2 years ago?
Yes.
And I had a lot of respect for the program. But SMU is probably not one of those names that you just think of when you think of college basketball.
Right. Well, and it's easy for them because, they don't fit geographically in the ACC. You have to stop and remember they're in the league. And of course, by the way, you have to love Andy Enfield. Had we done a preview show, I was going to tell you that one of the things I had forgotten, I remembered this coming out back when they had the hot run when he was at Florida Gulf Coast and they got to the Sweet 16 as Lob City. But Andy Enfield was an outstanding player at Division III Johns Hopkins when he was in college. And Lindy, the all-time, all-division free throw leader.
Yeah.
This guy was like 430 out of 460 or 70. I mean, he went 4 years, and I think he missed about 30 free throws.
That sounds like me from first.
That's what I was going to say. He's the Lindy Suter of coaches.
From first grade all the way through the 12th grade to get to there.
Just a free throw champ.
No, that's pretty neat. I didn't know that. Great story.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But they do. They
number 10 getting dropped the other night.
Pardon?
Sleets. How about Lamont Sleets' number?
Well, Lindy, that was great. I mean, that was just fantastic. And for me, I haven't been a fan quite as long as you have, but that was my first guy.
Oh yeah.
Lamont Sleets was my first guy. He and Gary Hooker, Glenn Green, that team that when Coach Green started to turn the program back in a championship direction. And I wish Coach Green, God bless him, I wish he was still with us because he just told such great stories about his guys. And for people who don't know about Lamont Sleets, from tiny Eminence High School in Eminence, Kentucky, and Lamont largely, when he was a high school player, played in the post. He was a great leaper at 5'10", extremely quick, obviously, and could score all over the floor, but he could just really get it done around the basket. And Coach Green always told the story of, there's always, when you had guys at that time get to that level, it was like, well, he can't do this or he's too small or whatever. He said, so I decided to pair Lamont Sleets and all of his strengths with Glenn Green, who was taller, but who was actually more of a distributing, facilitating point guard type. He said, we just kind of reversed them and made it fit. And we bring Gary Hooker in. The rest is history. But Lamont, one of the great explosive scorers and leapers. Of course, he got to fool around with the experimental three-point shot at one time. That was also part of his career, but had an injury in between, but ended up being all OVC 4 times and just an electrifying player, certainly a worthy Hall of Famer and a man in the rafters.
Oh, no question about it. In fact, me and Benny, I always went to Benny when I talk about players of the past, just to kind of double check how I was thinking, because I didn't think there was anybody that knew better than Benny. I mean, he'd watched all the teams, he'd watched all the players, and probably up until the time he passed away, Lamont Sleets was at the top of his list at that point guard position.
Yeah.
Isaiah Cannon was the first one that come along that he said, kind of alike. Isaiah and Lamont Sleets were actually played a lot alike. Both of them very athletic. Both of them could really shoot the ball. I mean, Lamont, I go back because the other night I got to thinking about it after he was out there, and I went back home, and of course, I got that nice little library I can pull out, and I watched probably about 10, 15 minutes of Lamont Sleets highlights in Racer Arena, and man, there's some really good highlights, Travis.
Well, he got people on their feet.
Play we were playing in the league was better than what the OVC has been.
Oh my goodness!
At that time, no question about it. In fact, early in his career, I think we had to deal with Western too.
Yes, did have to.
Well, I mean, it was tough. I think the most unfortunate thing, though, for that whole group of guys and team that was so good that they never got to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
That upset that night at home against, was it Akron?
Yep, Joe Jakubik and Bob Huggins.
I mean, that was just like, oh my goodness gracious, because that was such a good team, because one of my buddies put on Facebook, of course, my dad, anniversary of his birthday actually was this past week, November the 5th. And so I put it on Facebook, and one of my buddies talked about how my dad and one of his friends took me and him and Tony Thurman down to Birmingham to the UAB Classic. And Gene Bartow was coaching UAB, and Tom Penders was coaching Fordham.
Yep.
And we rolled in there with Ricky Hood and, and Sleets and Green and the crew. And we beat Fordham by about 35 on that opening night, which really opened a lot of eyes. Because at that time, Tom Penders coached Fordham, pretty respected program. And then the next night in the championship game, playing against UAB, we beat them in the championship game. And UAB was really good. Gene Bartow was a really good coach. It was a really good team. Big tournament, big crowd, remember it well. And another guy that showed out in that game, too, was Veda Martin. Veda Martin was a big 6'7" kid from down in, I think, Arkansas. And
tremendous athlete,
tremendous player. But Christmas that year, after the UAB tournament, because UAB tournament was like a Thanksgiving, like some of the tournaments they have now, he got ruled ineligible. And that was a real, to overcome that, because he was a real key piece to that game. I mean, to that team, 6'7", 6'8" power forward. And,
that was a unique level of size and athleticism.
That team, I tell you what, those guys could play some ball. I mean, Brian Stewart could lock you down. Ricky Hood could dunk with anybody right now. I mean, you go back and look at his dunks that he had. You remember them because they said that's when you first.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Bads Mama Jamma or whatever they called him.
That's right. Well, I mean, to first get Gary Hooker and then Ricky from Mississippi State, they were just game changers.
They were really game changers. Those were big additions. Gosh, that's been a lot of years ago. But that's when it all changed. And, I reminded Ron's daughter, Becky, of that the other night. Yeah. In the first Tupalooza that we did, I spoke. And I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. I was a nervous wreck. And I went in that arena that day, and I looked up at all those banners. And I saw where the first ones started.
Right.
I mean, the real string started. And it started then. And for what he did to the program while he was here is why all those other banners were up there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Lindy,
he hadn't done that. I turned around and I said, no, that would have been possible. Because he changed the whole thinking. The first original think big.
That was absolutely the magic of thinking big.
Had bigger beds in the dorms that they could actually sleep in. I mean, I can remember all the stuff that he came in and changed, and without all that, and it's so good to see his player get honored. I'm really glad that Cuthbert Victor's going into the Hall of Fame this year, because I think I've told you there's probably 3 sets of somehow or another that I think has just been overlooked. Maybe it's because of administrative changes and somebody doing it different than the other or whatever. But it was the group that played in the Dick Cunningham, Claude Bird, and Les Taylor era. Taylor got a lot. I mean, they're all in the Hall of Fame. Don't get me wrong, but you know where I think about Les Taylor.
I do indeed.
And then you get into Ron Green's guys. I don't know. You know, they don't seem like they're talked about as much as they maybe should have been when you talk about the history. And then Tvester's guys.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad this year one of Ron Green's guys went in the rafters, and one of Tvester's guys is going into the Hall of Fame.
Well, and Lindy, you mentioned it. Of course, championships, you always want to win them, but they don't happen independently. It's about who do you face. And in those early days, before Western left, Western was Western. Obviously, Middle Tennessee was tremendous. Remember, Middle Tennessee went and beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament in that era. UAB did that as well. You mentioned that Gene Bartow crew. But the thing about Lamont and Gary Hooker, Glenn Green, Ricky Hood, all those guys of that era, they did things like winning at Notre Dame, beating Digger Phelps in South Bend,
big one,
beating CM Newton's Alabama team in the NIT, and being good enough to host Wake Forest out of the ACC in the NIT when the NIT was still a big deal. Remember,
really big deal.
And so being in postseason play at all was huge. But I remember when Wake Forest came to Murray, it was our Super Bowl. It was a big deal.
Yeah, and the year we beat Alabama, I think we went and played Illinois.
Yep.
Go to Madison Square Garden and got cheated.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Cheated, which that happens. It happened at Missouri with Godfrey's team too. You know, but anyway.
But fun memories, and that's the value of the Racer Insider also being the racer historian. And Lindy, a couple of pieces of business before we wrap it up here in episode 3. Do have Nicholls State coming in on Saturday. It's a team that's been struggling. They struggle offensively in particular. They've struggled to shoot it, but they'll be looking to get well. So got to have attention to detail there. But hopefully folks will watch the Racers put on a big show, get back in the win column there. But because he is the racer historian, and I'm going to give him the latitude to do this however he wants it, because he's already sort of done this online. But to honor his 60 years as a Racer fan throughout the season here on the Racer Insider Show, we're going to unveil Suter's 60.
Who?
And you want to talk about I started trying to do it the other night and quit because I'm like, this is impossible. So here's what we may do. My friend Ed Chapman reminded me, Lindy, the other day that comparing through eras, man, that makes it even harder.
Oh, yes.
So some of the work Lindy's already done is ranking his all-decade teams, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. Brother, what we may do is we may just let you continue down that road, counting toward 60. Maybe we do 8 or 9 men per decade, and then if we've got some wild card spots from wherever, you can throw them in there. But I was looking at guys who have been, I think we've had 5 players who have been Conference Player of the Year twice.
Les Taylor, one of them.
Okay. And then there are some guys, I mean, the top 7, who you would move from the overall top 5, 6 and 7 are 2 of the greatest players in Murray State history. That's how deep the list is. And the top 20, Lindy, I got through my top 20 and I was like, this is impossible. This is such a list.
It's really hard on me because I was going back to my 60s too.
Right.
I'm trying to put that list together. Right. Like Ed said, I'm trying to pair Claude Burden with one because Claude Burden was a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Not a guy nobody even probably remembers the name. Well, the older folks do, but Claude Burden.
And Lindy,
Billy Chumler that played here at Cairo and Tillman, one heck of a player.
Great player.
Mississippi State. Well, I'm giving it away. I need to stop.
Yeah, well, we won't let you know what the whole list is.
But I would like to start with it when I really can remember which really starts with the season after they went to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
I just barely remember Jim Jennings and Stu Johnson. I mean, they're just, I was 4 years old, so that's kind of tough. But I do remember the first guy that I thought was a star, and that was Herb McPherson.
Yep.
So do your homework on Herb McPherson, because he'll probably be the first person that I talk about. And actually, he's on Twitter and follows the program very, very closely.
The racer record book is quite a thing to look at, though. It reminds you of how many phenomenal players.
And there's another guy that I want you to do some research on too. This probably should be discussed tomorrow at breakfast, but is a guy that never got to play for us, that drowned in Kentucky Lake. A guy by the name of Leonard Poole that played for Dunbar. Just do a little Google search, and see what you can find out about him. He played with Butch Beard, I think, on the same high school team, but that's kind of a little bit of a emotional story, actually. When you really and it happened when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, but I remember it.
Well, one of the things that we want to do, because we understand that when, as Lindy mentioned, his journey and his evolution as the Racer Insider goes back to him trying to fill a void in coverage.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to make sure the program was covered the way that he believed that it should be. That's where the roots are. He's talked about it many, many times over the years. Now there is a lot of coverage. There are a lot of resources. And so one of the things that we don't want to overdo is rehash something that you can get somewhere else, something that you already know. I think always Lindy's opinion as a fan for 60 years, the way he's been attached to this program, I think that always holds value. We'll share some numbers with you that maybe you won't get anywhere else, but we want to lean really heavily into his position as racer historian, having seen all this, because Lindy, I do think there's great value about talking about Coach Green's teams, talking about the environment and Racer Arena in those days, and staying connected as we go through Suitors 60, because again, we've lost so many of our other great historians. You said Benny Purcell, one of the great connective threads and touchstones in Racer basketball history. We want to put this stuff on the record so other people can keep it alive going down the road.
Yeah. And, back in I guess maybe 10, I don't know how long it's been since we did the Banner Years book, but that was one of the key things that, drove us to do that.
Right.
To put this stuff where people, you can go actually read about it and, try to relive some of it.
And Lindy, as stunning as it is,
extra books that I can get a hold of, because actually now people they seem to want them now more than they did at the time.
And that's been nearly 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's a heck of a book too. Let me grab one. Yeah, 2013. Actually, we got Isaiah Cannon and Dick Vitale's last year in there.
That's incredible.
But it takes you through there it all is. So I'm really proud of it now. More proud of it than I am now than I was at the time, because at the time it was such a project I didn't think we'd ever get through.
Right.
Didn't even want to read it. Didn't even want to read it. Only thing is, one of my guys got left out, and that was Ricky Hood, because I think we profiled what we thought was the top 30 players to be profiled.
Right.
And Ricky Hood, somehow or another, I had him on the list, but whoever.
Well,
but he belonged there.
maybe at some point there'll need to be a volume 2, right?
Well, I don't know. But what's wild is what all's happened since then.
Right.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
And the good thing there is, at least I do have the Racer Insider that chronicled those years.
Right.
We did go through with we published it up until Jai's sophomore year.
Yeah.
Well, his sophomore year.
It's pretty special to have it. It really is.
When you go back and look at it, I mean, you can read feature stories on D.T. Mays, his story of never playing high school ball. I mean, so many just really good stories in there, written by really good guys. Steve Parker, one of the best sports writers we've had around here. Of course, you had Fosco's columns back in the day. Everybody loved his opinion.
Right.
Roy had a really good, he had an open mind opinion, and miss that dude to this day. And I know you do too.
Yeah. Joey was special. And he he loved to cover it. And he might have in his heart been rooting for Murray State, but he was really good at calling it like he saw it. And of course, that was one of the old standards of journalism. But yeah, it literally does take a community to chronicle that kind of history. So the banner years may have to go through a reprint, Lindy, may have to be getting those back out there so people know their history.
You know, I kind of lost touch with them because there was 4 of us that were really involved: Jimmy Wilder, Sid Easley, myself, and Benny. And I'm the only one that's still alive, unfortunately. All 3 of those have passed. And so I'm not really for sure where the extras are.
Right.
I think Sam Underwood told me one time we had some stored in his storage building. I probably need to hit him up again. But yeah, I'm really, after like all these years have gone by, I can't believe it's been that long. But actually, that was the year my dad passed away too, so that's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
But and anyway,
we lost Joey as well.
Same year. But proud of that book now. Really am.
You should be.
In fact, when I do this 60-60, I'll probably be pulling this book out over the weekend and I'll read it.
I'm telling you, this man's got his work cut out for him. Paring it down to 60. He's going to be under some pressure. We may not ask him to rank them 1, 2, 3. We want to make anybody mad there, Lindy, at the top of the rankings, but it's a distinguished list. And as we work down that, I think people will enjoy that very much. And I'm looking forward to the history that that I don't, because I think even beyond the record books, a little eyewitness testimony is always a lot of fun to hear.
Oh, yeah. But I still got it up here, and I'm really glad that I've got 82 through DVR on tape. So
into the highlight cave for some of that stuff.
It's a good one too, y'all. It's a good one. All
right, my friend. We'll get things wrapped up here in episode 3. Again, Racers in action on Saturday. I hope you'll stick around. The Racer women will play the nightcap. They've got St. Louis. We got to get them back in the win column after they went to South Dakota to face probably the best team in America. Yeah.
When I looked at them, when I looked at it after the fact, oh, well, dang.
They are
team number one mid-major team in the
number one. Yes, and I believe, Lindy, they're a top 25 team.
Yeah. They're usually number one mid-major. You're top 25 team.
Yeah,
no what
they are.
So
they're really good. But a rare doubleheader on Saturday. You guys come out and enjoy it. Lindy, thanks for the visit here in episode 3, my friend. The last words always go to you.
Go Racers.